Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Robin Blank Mascari, and we get together every Tuesday evening. It may be morning for some of you around the world. I think in Australia it might be. And we are here to learn a little bit about a very special company called Lifewave and the star of the show called X39, our stem cell activation product. And we're going to learn about the company, the product, the founder, and then we're going to learn a little bit about the technology. And after that, we have a special guest this evening, Dr. Jeffrey Hubbard. And after that, it's your turn, and you can share your testimonials. You can share your questions. And please know that symptoms only. We don't talk any disease states. We are very compliant here, and we're really grateful that you're doing that so well. Please know that we're not here to heal, diagnose, or treat any kind of diseases. If you have a health condition, please contact your healthcare practitioner. So let's jump in. I'm excited. Can you tell? I love doing this. I love sharing about Lifewave because it came to me at a very challenging time in my life when I had severe knee pain from being bone on bone, and I was researching stem cell injections. And I was ready to pay $12,500. I should say we, Gregory and I, are ready to pay $12,500 out of pocket to help my knee pain go away. And then we got one of those amazing calls from a very dear friend, and he said, there's a historic breakthrough. There's a vehicle that comes in the form of light therapy that activates your own stem cells. And I went, how fast can I get it? That was it. He was a trusted friend, and we are forever grateful. So a week later, by putting, and I had one here just for this evening, yes, by putting this little patch, it looks about the size of a quarter, on the back of my neck. A week later, the pain in my knee was gone. Now, everyone has different experiences. Some people, it's instant. It's like a flip of a switch. And other people, it may take weeks or even months. It's always working. We're just not always noticing it. Well, I came on as a customer, but the results were so good. I'm the kind of person that can't not share. So I started sharing, and several months later, I went, this is too important to not really take seriously. And I felt a sense of responsibility to share it with the world. And so I started the business. And now we have many, many people all over the world that have had their lives changed. So this very special company, Lifewave, is now 16 years old. And it's very exciting. It started in 2004 when our founder, David Schmidt, he had created a product on a contract for the government, for the Navy SEALs, for survival, to help them stay awake in their mini subs for days on end, actually, without the use of stimulants or caffeine or drugs of any sort. And he developed this unique technology in a form of photobiomodulation, and we will learn about that in a few minutes from Dr. Jeffrey. And it worked. Well, 9/11 happened. The government had different priorities, and David is a scientist. It's a science and research company that has actually chosen network marketing to facilitate getting the word out, because the product needs our voice. It needs our stories. And in 2004, Lifewave was born. And David is a consummate researcher. He invests millions and millions of dollars into studies. He creates things in the lab, and then he figures out the studies that validate them with his staff, and over 80 clinical studies so far, and more happening all the time. And I know Gregory, my husband, likes to say, you know, other company owners want the bigger house, the bigger boat, the plane, whatever. David Schmidt, he wants more money in research. And so we love that. And there's constantly new things showing up from his lab. But the latest contribution that he made was launched last year in 2019 in January around the world. There was a tour around the world introducing the X39. It's the 39th patch. We don't have 39 products, but it is the 39th patch. It does activate your own younger stem cells. It does many other things that we're going to learn a little bit about soon. So let me talk a little bit about David. Well, the phases of the company, it started out with pretty much symptom-based products. So we have the The first product was called the Energy Enhancer that helped the Navy SEALs stay awake. And it actually helps with athletic performance too, strength, stamina, and recovery. And it was discovered by a Olympic swim coach, Richard Quick, out of Stanford. He was a women's Olympic swim coach. And he called David Schmidt up one day and said, 8 of my 10 swimmers, or it was out of 8. I think it was 6 out of 8 of my swimmers did their personal best the first time they put the patch on. The word got out. People saw the patches. They thought, oh, they're doping. Lots of tests happened. Lots of media happened. The company took a skyrocket up, and a very exciting launch. And athletes all over the world in just about every sport you can imagine are using this patch. And you can learn more about that by going to lifewave.com and go down into the news section, and you'll see lots of articles and all kinds of things in the media about that. Well, the first phase was more symptom-based, and David realized that people were also getting pain relief from this patch. So he did some tweaks in the lab, and the IceWave patch was born, which in over 90% of people, they get instant or rapid pain relief. By putting the patch on, nothing goes in the body. It's totally non-transdermal. It's a frequency of light. It's safe, it's natural, it's organic, although nothing's going in, but the materials in it are, and most importantly, it's very effective. And then a sleep patch came out called Silent Night that's actually used in hospitals in Europe instead of sleep medication. Well, phase 2 of the company, David is fascinated in human potential, and he created a series of patches called Why Age? Why do we want to age, huh? So that put kind of the brakes on aging, and then carnosine, glutathione, and eon were born. And then 10 years ago, David started researching regenerative science. And to date, this is his most exciting release to the world that came out last year in X39 is this regenerative patch called X39, which doesn't just stop the process, it turns back the biological clock. So many wonderful things happened. The pain in my knee went away, but my hair changed, my skin changed. It was pretty amazing. And then I kept noticing all kinds of other wonderful things happening in my body that, you know, I had these aches and pains. I don't know about you guys. I'm 66 years old, so a little concern about some of those mobility issues, and they just transformed. I recently had a knee replacement. I did have to have that. I wanted to avoid it, but because of some deformity from being bone on bone so long, I did have to have it, but my recovery was dramatically fast. Even the surgeon was amazed. It accelerates wound healing, and anyone who's had a procedure. So in 3 weeks, I got rid of my walker, off my meds, and I'm doing great. So I'm very, very happy about that. So this regenerative phase is phase 3, and there's more to come. So what I want to do is bring on Dr. Jeff, because Dr. Jeff is our doctor in rotation this evening. He's an MD out of Texas. He also has a master's in physiology. He's a lecturer and founder and president and CEO of Comedicare, an innovative health and wellness ecosystem that strives to remediate health disparities and tackle chronic illnesses here and abroad. This is a man who is absolutely committed to educate people. Dr. Jeff, do you have a board certification in lifestyle medicine?
Not yet, but that's something on my radar.
Okay, it's on your radar. Well, good, because what he does is he teaches lifestyle medicine. And I was thrilled to hear there's a new board certification for MDs. That made me very happy. And so he's integrated this into his practice, and he's educating people all over the world. He joined Lifewave a while ago to reach out to the world, and he's building all over the world in many African countries, which is very exciting. So he's teaching alternative modalities, nutrition, lifestyle modification, along with public and community health. So I'm thrilled to have you with us this evening, Dr. Jeffrey.
Thank you so much for having me. I always enjoy myself.
Well, we love having you. You've got a whole fan club growing already. So before we jump into too much, I mentioned that big, well, why don't we start out with saying, briefly, why are you so excited about Lifewave as an MD?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, you really hit it on the head. I mean, my emphasis and focus is on really healing the body and not necessarily managing disease. And I think that's uh, very prominent here on the Western side of the world, specifically here in the United States. We like to manage and kind of pharmaceutically uh, organize the way that the disease process is happening instead of trying to get to the root of the disease. So I think with many of the patches, it's more specifically the X39, you're able to get to the root of a lot of the common issues that are challenging our communities. And so it works perfectly. I mean, it's non-invasive, it's quick, it's easy, it's relatively cheap, and it just flat out works. And so I'm just thrilled that Mr. Schmidt kind of defied the odds there by providing us with a product that's really powerful and tackles a lot of the issues that we're facing and having problems with. So that's kind of
Beautiful.
my level of excitement and why I think this is such a powerful opportunity.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. You said getting to the root of the disease, because so often in many forms of medicine, it's a Band-Aid to help stop the symptoms. And we have something that looks like a Band-Aid, but it actually gets to the root. I love that. It gets to the root and helps the body do what the body does best, is return to a state of homeostasis. And so the body is doing the work. So let's jump in, Dr. Jeffrey, about this term photobiomodulation. The technology behind this is an interesting science that uses light therapy. So could you explain how this thing works?
Sure, sure. It's actually a marvel, and what I think the true genius from Mr. Schmidt is combining these different scientific innovations into one product. And so photobiomodulation is not unique to Lifewave. There's actually a bunch of products. There's several, wellness spas and sort of alternative healthcare spaces where light therapy is utilized. But there's all kinds of issues with those preliminary, we can call them prehistoric products. It's hard to manage dosage. It's hard to maintain the frequency. It's not specific. In this instance, Lifewave has created a product that just reflects our own infrared heat or infrared light in the form of body heat. So the patches are applied to the skin, they're activated by our body heat, and the proprietary frequencies of light are reflected into the skin. And that changes the biochem and our physiology and produces these glorious effects that we are getting the opportunity to take advantage of. And so, for example, we all know about the increase in melanin that happens when we are in direct UV light from the sun. That's a suntan. I think most of us are familiar with the most effective way to get vitamin D levels up is to stand in the sun for 20 to 30 minutes a day. That's another particular frequency of light. And so actually, several weeks ago, when Mr. Schmidt was here on this call, we talked about specifically how he comes up with these frequencies. He actually has a way by which he sits down and figures out, hey, I want to increase this molecule. And he does the due diligence to find out what frequency is going to alter that particular molecule's biochemical process. And voila, we have a new patch. And so he's just constantly on the lookout for molecules and ways by which the body can improve itself naturally. And then he hones in on that frequency and puts it in the form of a patch. It's really cool.
I love that. There's many forms of light therapy out there, and it is the future, the frequency medicine. So what I heard you say was the frequency of light from heat from our body activates the patch to create a very unique frequency, causing a biochemical change,
That's
right?
correct.
Okay, so all the patches have a different application and they do different things, but they're based on the same technology.
The same principle, but it's altered slightly for each particular patch.
Great. Okay. So aside from activating stem cells, what the X39 actually does is activate this copper peptide called GHK-Cu. So I'd love you to share a little bit with our audience about what is so amazing about this copper peptide, Dr. Jeffrey.
Wow. So GHK copper peptide was discovered in the 70s, early 70s, by a Harvard professor known as Lauren Picard. And he has since conducted so many different research studies in an effort to understand how this, boom, there you go, how this particular molecule is affecting our body. And so basically it's been given the moniker, you know, the lifestyle molecule, because it's constantly engaging the body and making it healthier. Okay, and it does that in a couple of different ways. One powerful way is that it's a genetic modulator. So it influences 4,192 different genes. So you can imagine how powerful these things are working. And so to give a little context, um, some of those genes are increased, their products are increased. That's what we call upregulate. And some of their products are decreased. That's what we call downregulation. And so, as this GHK copper peptide makes its way into the cell and begins to influence the nucleus and where those genetic material are housed, let's say give, for example, let's say a fat storage gene, right? We don't want to store fat, we want to burn fat. So that molecule or that gene will be turned down, right? We don't want to store fat, we want to burn it. Uh, for instance, if we have a collagen gene and it improves the amount of collagen that it produces, we want to increase that molecule or that gene product. Okay, so that's what we would consider upregulation in that regard. So it works on both ends of the spectrum, either to improve the gene function or to decrease or make dormant the gene function, all in an effort to make us healthier and happier and all of that good stuff. One of the key powerful things that GHK does is that it converts our keratinocytes, which are skin cells, into pluripotent stem cells. So that was a mouthful. Basically, you're converting your adult skin cells that we all have right now, into our most primitive cell type. And that cell type is capable of traveling and recognizing areas of inflammation and areas of trauma and areas that need to be regenerated. And those molecules frequent that area. And that's why many of us, 80% have a almost immediate response when wearing the X39. Within hours to days, people are saying, wow, I feel better. I feel more energetic. I sleep better. Maybe I've had some really good bowel movements. Maybe I've noticed a difference in my mental clarity and my focus and memory. So there's a whole plethora of different things that happen. And it's really specific, which lets me know that it is very genetically oriented and that, it's going to be beneficial for all of us, but the exact way that it impacts us is different and unique to each person.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
So I realized that as you were talking, and we're talking about stem cells, and that the copper peptide actually activates more stem cells from our skin. Could you please share why stem cells are so important? What is their role? How many do we have when we're young, and what happens as we age? And could you explain a little bit? Because I know a lot of people hear the term stem cells, it's in the news, but they don't really understand what they are. So I think it would be helpful.
Got it. So, as I was kind of alluding to earlier, they're a primitive cell. So they basically are capable of converting or what we call morphing or morphology, morphing into any cell type. So we have three embryological cell lines. We have the ectoderm, which eventually becomes hair, skin, nails, eyes, nerves, brain, etc. We have the mesoderm, which is muscle, bone, heart, lungs, kidneys, bladder, etc. And then we have the endoderm, which is mostly gastrointestinal. So it's esophagus, stomach, liver, spleen, pancreas, intestines, so on and so forth. So basically, this cell type is capable of becoming any of those three embryological cell lines, and they respond to the immune system. So there's a kind of cascade of what we call chemical messengers, they call cytokines. And it's the way that our immune system communicates with other cells and with the other immune cells that are required for these sophisticated responses to trauma and inflammation and so on and so forth. So they then go to that knee joint or to that artery or to that kidney or to that pancreas and say, hey, here's an area that's inflamed and needs to be redeveloped or rebuilt. And it begins working because of that inflammatory response that's there. So I've seen so many different things. People say, wow, I really want my knee to improve. But genetically, they are prioritizing their cardiovascular system. So maybe their blood pressure goes down, maybe their circulation improves. Maybe they have an improved heart rate before the inflammation of the knee or the shoulder, etc. So it's really interesting the way that each person has their own experience.
So when we have stem cells, I love, Dr. Shauna talks about this, how they're always looking for work. and, and they're drawn to inflammation.
Right,
And inflammation, as many of us know, is the root source of most illnesses. So if we can start handling the inflammation, and what you just said, Dr. Jeffrey, is they go to where they're most needed. They have this like innate wisdom to know what's most important. Like the knee is not nearly as important as the lungs, you know? And
right,
so they're going to go to, and some people say, well, I'm not, they're not working. And we know they're always working. You may not be noticing, but
hmm
they're always working. And as we age, we have a lot less of them. So you want to just address that for a minute? What
So it's
happens
interesting.
to our stem cells as we age?
Sure, sure. So it's interesting because I'm actually wearing my energy patches that I wear almost every day now. And it's so different because as soon as you put these on, you have almost an immediate response. You feel euphoric. You kind of feel like you've got a burst of energy. You feel like maybe you had a couple of cups of coffee. Uh, Different than the X39's change in energy level. It's very subtle. It's very kind of under the radar. And then all of a sudden it's like, aha, I have a great day. Everything's been going good. I feel energetic. But specifically to your point, um, it is a unique process for each person, and those things are going to be prioritized. And that's what I always like to share is regardless of whether or not you feel something happening, there's definitely something happening under the surface. And you at least need 90 to 120 days before you say, maybe I'm not doing something correctly. Because the results of the X39 are something like, oh wait, I used to have this pain thing and now it's not there anymore. And it's very subtle. It's like you wake up one day and you can do things that you couldn't do a couple of months ago. And for example, I played baseball most of my life, and so my right shoulder is kind of, it was a little achy. I think I was developing some rotator cuff and maybe some chronic inflammation and tendonitis and things like that with my shoulder. And now I can almost do the same thing I can do with my left shoulder. I can wash my back with my right side. I mean, and it's just subtle. I one day I was just noticing it in the shower, and I was like, wow, I can really get back there now. It's different than when it was I had to kind of stretch to get there. So those are kind of some of the more immediate experiences that I've had personally. But I tell you, there's so many testimonials and experiences that I've come in contact with over the last, I found out about Lifewave Valentine's Day of this year.
What a
So
nice gift.
a wonderful gift. But, 9 months later, almost 10 months later, here we are. And I every day almost, it seems like I hear something cool that I have never heard before.
That's what I say. It's wonderful to live in a day knowing that we're going to hear miracle stories every day. So let's hear one. I think we have Debbie who wants to share. That was wonderful, Dr. Jeffrey. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
I
Thank you.
always learn so much from listening to you, and it just takes it a whole nother level. So I think Debbie wants to share a testimonial. So remember, we only share symptoms, what you couldn't do or what your symptoms were, and then what you used in X39 or other patches, and then now what's happened. So Debbie, you should be able to talk.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I had lymph nodes, many that are enlarged and causes like extreme pain. I'm on a lot of opiates and pain pills because of it. It's a disease, but I put on the X39 and literally within 5 minutes, and you can see it. I don't know if you can see me right here. I've got it. It's supposed to be in the back of your neck, but I put it where it hurt. Within 5 minutes, the pain was gone. Wow. I mean, gone. And then I needed more of them. I was not going to be without these things. So I started watching the YouTube videos, saw the glutathione, saw the results from that, tried that, and my energy, which I'm normally like fatigued and I can barely get one foot in front of the other. I felt energetic. I felt fine. I'm starting to do laundry and cleaning the house, and it's just amazing. Then I saw Icewave. So I put the Icewave patches on and I moved it around like you're supposed to, clockwise, and no pain. I mean, absolutely none. I feel like I don't need any of the pain pills. I know I've reduced like maybe 80% from what they're giving me, because I don't need them at all, really. I feel with these patches, the longer I'm using them, and I've only had like them for maybe 2 weeks, the longer I use them, I don't feel like I'm going to need any type of pain management other than this.
Beautiful, Debbie. Congratulations. Thank you. And what we say all the time is wow. Just notice how many times Dr. Jeffrey, you probably notice it too. It's like we're always in awe of wow. So thank you, Debbie, and congratulations. We're so happy. You know, it's so wonderful to be able to improve the quality of life so simply, naturally, safely, and affordably for people. Oops, I just stopped her. I'm sorry, Debbie. So let's move on a little bit here.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, please.
So I've been looking at a couple of the questions that people are asking in the chat, and I think it's important to note that, especially if this is one of the first times that you've learned about Lifewave, that these patches are not specific for a particular ailment or a symptom. I think what's important to note is that it brings the body into balance, into what we call physiological homeostasis. And so when your body is in alignment, a lot of these symptoms tend to resolve themselves on their own. I mean, your immune system is working in accordance with the rest of your body, and your circulation is improved, and all of these types of things, and you're in a good state psychologically. And this results in the improvement of the way your body functions. And so I think it's important to start there instead of asking the question, well, is it going to work for this or is it going to work for that? I think it's important to get your own sort of experience, and perhaps in in your time of wearing the patches for the first 90 days or so, you'll start to notice that that particular issue or symptom or concern that you have is beginning to improve or resolve itself. And you know, so again, I wouldn't focus on, is this patch going to fix this? I would say, wow, it sounds to me like these patches really work for everyone, and I want to see how they're going to work for me. And regardless of whether that's the resolution of that particular symptom, or whether or not that's the total improvement of your body is to be determined.
Thank you so much for saying that, because I think we're so programmed with the Western model. If you do this for that disease and this for that disease, this is a different model.
Mm.
And you said it so beautifully that what the technology does is helps your body do what it does best, go to homeostasis. And it's not about, you know, a patch for this and a patch for that. It's letting the body do its work. So this is an interesting question from Patricia. What would be a useful response to an educated person who says, I don't believe in manipulating DNA as it goes against evolution?
Mm. That's interesting.
I know, that's what I thought.
Um,
So for
I don't know if I necessarily agree with the comment or agree with the statement that it is going against evolution. I think it's going, in many instances, going against the aging process and what our experience with the environment does to our body. And so much of our disease states and aging process is because of what we eat and the experience we have with the environment, with the toxins, with the water, with a lot. And so our body is constantly working to expel these toxins, to bring our bodies into balance, as we mentioned. And it's really challenging with a poor quality of food and not having the proper nutrients, minerals, and vitamins every day, and not getting the proper physical exercise. I mean, who has time for that, right? So here's an opportunity where you can just wear a patch and kind of uh, jumpstart or prevent that aging process, slow down the aging process, slow down inflammation, slow down chronic disease. So that's where the magic happens. And to me, uh, kind of biohacking my genetics into doing the things that my body needs to be at its healthiest state. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that's an innovation, not something to be concerned about.
thank you so much. And I think David talks about it, that alters your gene expression to a more youthful you. So it's doing something that's just taking us back to ourselves. It's not making it different, it's just making it younger, like you
And
said.
and I agree. And so just to be clear, all the molecules that are increased by wearing the patches happen naturally. They're endogenous, is what we call them. The cells that normally produce these molecules are producing them regularly at any age. It's just that as we age, that production goes down. And I want to make sure that we cover everything. So I want to circle back to a glutathione article that I read because I think it's valuable information for all the listeners.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Um, let's see. Sunshower's asking, tremors to a very common ailment, mostly in men. Um, what to use? My friend has had this ailment for 15 years now, is now 71. And here again, we're getting back to the same thing that you talked about. So, you want to
So
respond to that,
what I've
please?
noticed is that you can target specific areas of the body with the patches, and so I think that's the focal point more so than will it fix one, two, three, X, Y, Z, but where is the origination of said symptom, and how can I patch for that particular symptomology? So anything that's intracranial, right inside the head, you can do a lot of different things. You can wear energy patches on your temples. I don't know if we talked about the HAT protocol that's been circulating around. Dr. Nicholas is famous for talking about the HAT protocol. And so you wear energy here and here, here and here, and then you wear glutathione and eon in the crown. And so the idea is to put it inside of the hat, wear the hat for 8 hours, 10 hours, however long. Or I like the idea of maybe even wearing there you go, perfect, wearing like a
My
more
smart hat.
comfortable and soft hat. Maybe when you sleep, you can have it there and wear it overnight. Same thing with the eyes. We can wear a sleep mask or an eye patch and really improve, issues with retinal decline or inflammation of the eye. I mean, there's so many different issues that are challenging people's vision. For instance, if you have sinus problems, you can patch right here on the sinuses, or here in a triangular, formation that actually has been shown from acupuncturists to be much more energetically powerful than one acupuncture point at a time. Um, so I'm still learning all the different acupuncture locations and familiarizing myself with that. But typically, if it's a pain, you can put it right on the pain. But for example, some of us have issues with our sciatic nerve and it gets inflamed. Normally, it's because our lower lumbar vertebrae are either weak or have been displaced because of fall or a car accident or something. So instead of putting the patch on the pain in the back of your buttock or the back of your leg, it probably be more advantageous to put it actually on the vertebrae where the injury is occurring. And so it's just those small sort of anatomical things that you might need to familiarize yourself with, and how that can kind of help with improving. And I like to think of specifically with the pain, there's an immediate approach with Ice Wave or Eon, and there's a long-term approach with X39 where it's about rebuilding the ligaments and tendons and making sure that those muscles are strong in that particular area of the back, for example, versus, oh my God, I can't get out of bed because my back hurts so bad. Let me put these Eon on, or, Ice Wave on, so that I can go through my day as the X39 helps to rebuild tissue.
Beautiful. Wow. We could be here all night learning from you. And there's many more things. So next time, everyone, put your questions and testimonials early on in the chat section so we can get to you. And we have reached the end of our time. We want to thank you, Dr. Jeffrey, for your wisdom, your time, your generous contributions to our community. It's really wonderful. We love learning from you, and thank you all for joining us. If you're new and just learning about Lifewave and our technology for the first time, please get back to the person who invited you, and know that we have a wonderful customer program, and we have a program for those of you that like to share, and there's a very generous compensation that goes with it. So reach out to the person who invited you, and we want to thank you all for taking the time to be with us this evening, and have a wonderful evening getting younger. And it keeps getting better. You mentioned that, Dr. Jeffrey, over time. And I encourage everyone to get a health tracker and do a baseline. And then, like you said, Dr. Jeffrey, in 24 hours, a lot of people notice something. And in a week, you're going to notice more things, and it gets better and better and better over time. So, my hair got thicker. Someone asked what happened. The fine lines and wrinkles are better for sure. A lot of us like that. But all kinds of other things have gotten better, like my reaction time and mental clarity, and my crooked finger even straightened out. So it's surprising, and it just gets better. So thank you all for being with us this evening. Really appreciate all of you taking the time to be with us. Bye-bye, and bye in Facebook land. Great to have you. Thank you, Dr. Jeffrey.